Hello, welcome to Solidxperts Lunch and Learn. My name is Chris Duchesne. Today we're going to be covering the new routing library and what's new in routing 2011. First, let's start off with the new routing library manager, which you can find under Routing Tools, Routing Library Manager. Now, new, just for 2011, you have a now easily to create parts both for electrical and mechanical designs in the Routing Library Manager, where you find all your tools you need to create the different parts and manage them. For example, like I said, we do electrical, piping, tubing, and you just step through. For example, let's pick a piping part. Then we can easily move on to other categories then. We have access to gaskets, O-rings, or even T's. And once that's the next pipe we're going to create, we just step through the next step of the wizard, which will be creating the actual format. Now we have a very easy, interactive graphical representation of which each point does, both for the C points and the R points, clearly, and a very interactive way to create the points. For example, let's start off with an R point with this T I have. So I'll go ahead and go to create that R point. It'll automatically bring up the manager. It will go away and it'll automatically bring up the R point generator, and I just go ahead and pick that point. Once I'm done, okay that, and up will come back our routing tool manager. Now it says that I have added the R point, clearly is present, and I can keep stepping through and getting all my points, and obviously green for good and red for still needs to add the component, and very interactive and helpful. Once I'm done with that, and let's say I want to import a PNID into the routing library, into the routing, I can now set up a filtering system for the XML file. And all I have to do is first create a name for the file. Then I can just step through and say what type of routing it'll be, and then just list the type of component, and then it'll easily step through and help me create what that is. For this case, I can actually create size, for the pipe. Then after that size, I want to specify specification, which will be 40. As you can see, it creates the nice tree format, and then finally I can go with material. Which now it's a lot easier to create the filtering system when you're importing data from your PNID diagrams using the schema manager. So after you're done creating that, and you were to import a PNID diagram, there is a new actual piping and tubing database where it'll automatically go through, filter out the components in that database, and if you don't happen to have that component already configured or seen, you have quick access to this library where it categorizes things by crosses, pipe size, and schedule, and allows you to quickly and easier filter out the information from all the parts you have in your database. So it's faster, easier to manage, and you can even import new data from downloaded files or export it for information of what you have in your library. So in SOLIDWORKS 2011, you have a lot greater flexibility with the new routing manager to keep track of your parts and to also set up your database and control it. Now let's move on to the new stuff in routing, where we now have capabilities to put in more specifications while we route on the fly. For example, here we have a nice system here, a couple tanks, and we got to route some piping around. We'll start by first simply just going through, getting ourselves a piping fitting, weldment, and then finally we'll get ourselves a fitting flange. And now in 2011, before you would have to drag the flange in and select for different sizes, well, now if you drag the flange in, it will auto size that particular size of flange diameter on its own without having to prompt you and have to go through several selections. And once you insert that, it'll automatically start the route. And then we can go over here and drop in our next flange here for our smaller component. Once again, just drag and drop from the library and it will auto size to fit, which cuts down the time and selections. And then after we're done with those points, we can just go ahead and do a quick auto route, and then we can just specify length of it. After we're done with that, we next can bring in our, because these are two different size pipes, so we can just have to finish up by bringing in our reducer. Just drag, drop it in, grab which set of pipes they go for. They go ahead and place that. Now new in 2000, now this obviously is a weld pipe. Well, of course, when you usually put some weld pipe in, you want to sometimes specify different size gaps in different locations. Well, now in 2011, we actually have a tool for that, where you just go ahead and you just click on the route of the pipe, and you actually can go through and specify gaps in different locations. So for example, I could call this out as 10, make this 20, and I'm through and specify a gap in every different location if I want for special weld prep. And once I'm done, I can go ahead and accept that. And then it'll go through, ask me some questions about my route, which that's the right elbow to use. Once it's done, it'll actually go through and place the weld gap in. As you can see, the top here is smaller. That was my 10 millimeter gap, and down here at the bottom was my 20. So now it's faster and easier to specify weld gaps on your piping systems that have weld clearances that are needed, and you can do it while you're routing. So now let's move on to another specific part of the system using the new P90 import, where I can go ahead, import a XML file, which is exported from a P90 diagram, and then it goes through and gives me a nice wizard interface to interact with it, and it highlights different components. And now if I want to see what I have to route, I can actually easily look here in this PID validation report, and it gives you a nice tree format to see which components have to be routed where, which tank, and then also lists even the valves, T's, and other components in nice tree format. So you can easily step through and see what needs to be done. So let's go ahead to one of our piping systems, and this time we'll go ahead first start off with the mixing and process that, and actually we'll go through and automatically recognize the two different flange locations, where they are, what size flanges they are, and then it gives me a nice this dotted line, which is a guideline of kind of which 2 points connect together based on the imported data from the P90 diagram, and then I can just with a right click convert that guideline to an actual piping route, and then quickly step through the different configurations so I get one that I'm happy with, accept that, but I still can quickly go back, modify that, so I can specify the way the layout I want to route. Now in 2011, the capability on being able to put dimensions in, and now the dimension actually goes to the outside diameter of the piping. So no matter how large your pipes are, if they're special coatings, when you're specifying distance, how far away from different objects you want to dimension it, it will be dimensioned from there. So as you're entering the information, you see the dimensions actually called off from the pipe's outer diameter, no longer from the center. You can change specification if you want, but that's new for 2011. Now, let's go ahead and add some more piping routes here. Go back to our P&ID instruction. Now we'll go to our hot water system 2. Process that. Now we have a new filter connections where I can quickly go through, and just as you saw before, with the guideline I can see which connection goes where. So I can decide which step of the process I want to connect next. As you see, it puts the guideline in from those 2 points based on the imported data. For example, I'll start off with this schematic here. Once I do that, I can quickly go back to my interface and then automatically start sketching my lines in for the pipe route. And as I'm sketching the pipe route, it will go through and recognize that that's the connection I want to use and actually make adjustments to the guideline to the new connection I've added. So now the pipe routing I've added to it, it just adjusted the guideline to the other end of the point and place it in. And then I still can go in, right click, convert guideline, and then once again step through the different routing schemes that I like, and once I find something I like, I can go ahead and accept it. Allows your flexibility and ease to adjust your pipe routing on the fly in new routing 2011. Those are just some of the new things that you can see around 2011. Thank you very much for tuning into Solidxperts Lunch and Learn. Have a great day.